Your Best Manager, Episode 25.
Anders Dalvik, who was the CEO of IKEA at the time, and it did not matter how difficult of a time that I had, he had my back all the time.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Your Best Manager podcast, featuring interviews with senior managers and leadership experts, as well as practical advice for first-time managers. And after today's show, be sure to hop over to yourbestmanager.com and sign up for my free live masterclass, where you will learn 7 strategies to retain top talent and help your best employees reach their potential. I hope you are ready to change the world, everybody. This is Jamie Newman here, and I'm excited to be joined by Pernille Spiers-Lopez today. Pernille, how are you doing?
I'm great, thank you.
Awesome to hear. Pernille is, together with her daughter, the co-founder of Good Life Designed and the author of Design Your Life. She is an international business leader with over 20 years executive experience and a unique focus on developing both business and people. Among several top executive positions, she held the position as president and CEO for IKEA North America, global chief HR officer, and was a member of the executive management team of the IKEA Group for 10 years. In addition to her work with Good Life Designed, she's a corporate and nonprofit director with a focus on retail, leadership, strategy, competence development, succession, and compensation. She's currently on the board of directors for Meijer Corporation in Grand Rapids, Michigan, ECCO USA, and Save the Children US and International. And to kick this interview off, Pernille, why don't you give us an overview of your career path and just how you got to where you are today?
Well, thank you very much. Very nice introduction. And I will kind of give maybe a little more details to how I got to all these positions. That, of course, sound pretty impressive, but I was just like everybody else, really kind of starting in one end and ending up in a completely different place than I had expected. So start with that. I actually grew up in Denmark and was there until I left for the U.S. at 23. In Denmark, I have a degree in journalism and worked for a year as a journalist when I finished my education and realized that was probably not, at least at the moment, the career for me. I was quite young, and that was very, I would say, a much more senior group of people, so getting jobs were very difficult. So I went on to the United States with this idea of, I was very interested in design and started my own company and created an import company in the United States selling Danish design, and that was in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and had a friend in Denmark that was exporting. I was the importer, she was the exporter, and it was a great opportunity to come to the U.S., get work permit, and really was starting my life. Very exciting. Worked with that for 2.5 years. Realized that I certainly was probably not the most experienced in this. And after 2.5 years, I got the opportunity to work with a furniture company in Miami, and was out of confidence. I was out of money. I was out of energy. I hadn't had vacation. And so I started with this company, and that was the door store, and I was really fortunate to have this opportunity. I started selling furniture at $5 an hour, and when I left, I was actually director of their 24 stores in Florida. That was really my first management position. Then I was offered, so that really started my life in furniture and retail. And a couple of years later, I was offered a position to come to California for a company that was copying IKEA. I went to, and that was in California, and that sort of got me to the West Coast, and a fantastic opportunity for a young Danish entrepreneur. And so I worked with them for a couple of years and helped start up this copy of IKEA. IKEA had still not come to the West Coast. And I would have to say that was just that was really a big learning in how you, literally built a big box store, learning retail, learning basic management. And then IKEA came to California, and it was just a perfect opportunity for me to apply to go work for them. And I joined them in 1990 and had a 21-year career. And I started as a sales manager for the non-furniture product. My dream was to become a store manager. And I actually left in 1993. I had met my husband in California. We had two kids, and now we moved to Pittsburgh, where I got my first store manager position. And in Pittsburgh, I really took the worst IKEA store in the world that was about to close, and my chance was to turn it around. So that was an amazing experience. After 4 years as store manager in Pittsburgh, I had definitely been very vocal about women in leadership, taking care of our employees, the frontline people. And I felt there was a lot of things that we needed to change. And before I knew it, I was offered the HR job for North America. I did that for 4 years, and that was a whole other challenge. I did that for 4 years and was part not only of creating a new HR strategy for North America, but also was part of working on a global strategy, and that's how I met the CEO of IKEA Worldwide. And he actually offered me, after a few years as HR manager for North America, to take on president of IKEA North America. And also the biggest expansion IKEA had done in any country at the time. I think we had like 27 stores that were that we had built over 25 years, and we were supposed to have 50 stores in North America by 2010, and this was about 2002. So then this was definitely my biggest leadership challenge, and I will have to say the most exciting and fantastic job. I did that for 9 years, and I left after I had accomplished what was set out to be, and then my next job, I felt like it was maybe time to leave IKEA, but I did one more job, which was working again with Anders Dalvik, that I will come back to, who was the CEO, and he asked me to be global HR manager. So I took that job on and commuted between Chicago and Europe almost every week, and I did it for 2.5 years. After 21 years, I decided that it was right for me to find, a way to leave. I felt my season was over, and I actually left in 2011 without a plan B. The only thing I was going to do was learn how to do nothing, and then I wrote my book. At the time, it was in Danish, and it was called "If Your Life Was a Kitchen," and it later translated to "Design Your Life" here in the U.S. So I've been trying to design my own life, and that's actually how I got the idea together with my daughter. I know there's many, many people out there that are just trying to figure out, with all the possibilities we have, to actually navigate and design our life beyond just a job. So I feel that I have gone through the process myself, and actually I'm pretty happy with the sort of like more of a freelance life, where I do really things that I love to do. I love to still be involved in businesses, so I am on these boards and continue to push for people agenda and diversity and those kind of things. I am very engaged with Save the Children, where I lead and co-chair, etc., different projects, and I'm a vice chair on the International Save the Children. And of course, then I'm also involved with ECCO shoes and trying to position them together with them here on the U.S. market. And of course, I do a lot of coaching and mentoring of all kinds of leaders and people that are interested in taking ownership for designing their life. So when I live in Los Angeles, I kind of moved all the way around, and my husband and I are right back where we started. So full circle.
That's awesome. And I think it's so cool, especially because you said a couple minutes ago, your dream was to be a store manager, and look what you've accomplished. That's really exciting. Congratulations on building a successful career.
Oh, thank you. I mean, and you know what? I will still say, if people ask me what was your best job ever, I will never hesitate to say to be a store manager, because that is just a fantastic job. It is everything that for me what I wanted to do. And of course you get easily attracted into other opportunities. And yes, they had all kinds of positive aspect as well. But there was never anything for me like being the store manager of that Pittsburgh store.
Yeah. Well, we're going to keep rolling. We're going to keep rolling right into this golden question for the interview. When you look back on your career, who was your best manager? And maybe it wasn't a manager, but a mentor. So who had the most significant influence on your career, and then why?
Well, if it's possible, Jamie, let me answer it a little bit differently, because I think there actually are. The way I want to answer it is that there's been some people that have absolutely been giving me opportunity and trusted me and believed in me more than I believed in myself. And they helped sort of unleash my potential. And I will absolutely, there's definitely one guy that stands out to me, and that is, of course, Anders Dalvik, who was the CEO of IKEA at the time, and just has been just a fantastic mentor to me and leader. And the reason I say that is that we worked together. I was chairing a project on this HR strategy, and I think he just saw me, and he looked at me in a way where he could see that, yes, this is a person that I believe, if I support, can actually do unbelievable things. And when somebody pulls that out of you, it's life changing. And I worked for him for 10 years, and I was in his management team in Europe while I was president of North America. And it did not matter how difficult of a time that I had, he had my back all the time. And there was times where I was questioning myself, and I would call him up and I would say, "What do you think?" And he's like, "Keep on going. You're doing the right things." And if there was ever a problem that he had heard about or something that he wasn't happy about, he always called me up very calm and always in a supportive way. I still got the message. I still knew what I needed to do, but it was always out of this trust, confidence, looking forward, and recognizing me and giving me the sense that I was adding huge value. And I could say anything I wanted to him, and he would be open to that. So he was an incredible, or is an incredible leader and mentor at the time. And then also I have a mentor that I've had my whole career, and we are still mentoring each other. And he was HR manager in Canada at the time when I was HR manager for North America. And he literally is just one of the most amazing people in how he sees things and are able for you to just, it's like it's like a kaleidoscope. He always gives you another way of looking at things. And sometimes you're just blown away by, wow, I hadn't thought about that. So I would say those two really are people that stand out as a true mentor. And I just give you an example. I was at a time in my life when I was HR manager for North America. I was driving some really tough questions. I had small children at home. I was commuting between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and I had an anxiety attack when I was in Philadelphia and was taken to the hospital. And it wasn't by accident that my friend, my mentor, Ulf, was with me. And I'll never forget when we sat at the hospital, he said to me, "This would be the best gift you ever had." When I realized I wasn't dying, that's what he said to me. And I just looked at him and said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And of course, now I know.
Yeah.
Yes, but I also think as a young manager, I actually had the store manager when I came out to California, and she had been a store manager for many, many years. And And I really liked the way she taught me very basic things of managing people. And if I hadn't had that experience, I would have been very lost when I came to be a store manager. But she was such a, she really took the discipline of, how do you manage people, performance evaluation, succession planning, challenge people, have conversation and the tough conversations with people, give people goals, directions, all of those things. And I'm really thankful for her for having done that and giving me those very basic things, because I did not have those when I came to that startup company.
That's awesome. And I think there's a lot of things that you said in there that are really valuable. But one of the things that I picked out that I hope everyone listening picks out as well is the value of perspective. And one of the specific things that you kind of talked about without actually using these words was you were led in some cases based on your potential, not necessarily based on where you were at that moment. I think it's really tempting for managers and companies to manage people from a "what have you done for me lately" mentality, and it's just so empowering to be able to talk to somebody, lead somebody, and challenge them based on their potential, on what they can be, on where you see them, and to give people that confidence versus always evaluating them on what they've done and their past results. So I think it's incredible that you brought that up.
Yeah, and you know what? I think what that requires, though, I think is also what I mentioned, is that if you want to stretch people, if I hire someone that I know their potential and putting them in a stretch position, I know they can do it. But what it does require is that I am there all the way, that I am in tough times and good times, because that person they have never done this before, and they are really trusting that you're going to be there on that journey. And so I think that is really important for anybody, that if anybody is taking a stretch position, because sometimes that is what managers also want, because they want people to take jobs that maybe they are looking to fill, and they're hoping this person can do that. As a manager that's about to take on that stretch position, I would really make sure that along the way there is that support, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's critical, because the other tempting thing to do, I mean, one of the skills a manager must have is the ability to delegate, but delegation doesn't mean walking away from someone who's not ready. There's the ability to evaluate where someone is at on their skills and capabilities is a very important skill, and I think you articulated that very well. Now, I'd like to actually keep talking about some of your experiences, though, and maybe you can share a story or even a commonality of the biggest challenge that you faced when you became a manager for the first time. Or actually, you know what? It could be anywhere on your leadership journey, but when you think about leading people, what was the hardest thing for you to do, or the biggest challenge you had to overcome?
Well, I think it's about creating, so a couple of times have I taken on jobs that I had absolutely no experience in. If you look at it from pretty much, if you're a store manager and you've never been a store manager, or if you're HR manager for North America and you've never been an HR manager, or president of IKEA North America coming from HR. So I've always, or even when I took on that job as director of stores for Door Store, my very first early position, I think the biggest challenge, I think, is to jump into something that you really don't know. And I think you have really an option. You have an option to, kind of try to fake it and be sort of like the boss right away, which is what I did in my very first job in Florida, and I have regretted ever since. But all these other jobs, I have actually shared that, that I want to, building trust with the people that work for you, I think is the absolutely most important thing. And sometimes you have to build that trust without them really having any good reasons for them to trust you, because when I came to Pittsburgh, they're looking at me. I was their third store manager. They knew that if I didn't succeed, we would close the store. And what what they didn't, at least the two other ones had been store managers before. And here I came with two young children and really so green. And I think it's about rolling up your sleeves and be side by side, and trusting yourself, but also knowing that trust from their perspective takes time, and that you got to walk your talk, you got to listen, you got to be close to them and not distant. And so what I did, and I've always done, is spent a lot of time listening to what are three things that I can do to make your life better? How can we make the store better? What are things that you believe that you can do better if I said yes? And those are things that I think have helped me along the way, because, just being honest and trusting that if I keep on doing what I think is right and keep listening and being side by side with the people that work for me, that has been one of the most successful things, but also challenging.
Mm-hmm. That's so good, because I think it's tempting for people when they get thrown into a role that they don't necessarily feel ready for to be very concerned about how they show up, want to be perceived as perfect, and then end up distancing themselves because they're afraid that getting dirty or getting involved or building those relationships may expose that maybe they're not as good as they think they are. And I think it kind of shows a little bit of willingness to take the risk and be vulnerable, because again, when you roll up your sleeves, people are going to see your faults, but that's also how they build a relationship with you. So
absolutely.
So I'd like to jump back to today then. And maybe you can just talk a little bit about what's exciting. I mean, you've had a very exciting career, and as you were talking through it, I was just like, man, the things that you've seen, it's really, really cool. But what's exciting you today?
Well, what's exciting me today is that when I spent time with individuals, and that are often at, a lot of the people that I mentor and coach are, in situations that I've been in, so I can relate to it, and to actually coach people. First, they have to do quite a lot of work themselves, but to actually, as we get into it, when I can sense that somebody really is changing their own paradigm and are getting it, and I see people changing, not necessarily jobs, but just changing their own perspective about their job, their own responsibility. When I see people and feel people go from being just running and trying to take on more and more and more, and not really stepping back and taking ownership and lead their own lives and lead in their jobs, when I can sense that and feel that shift, it is the most rewarding thing. And I spend also time with, I do retreats, and to be around people and see how people come sometimes burdened with all kinds of stuff that goes on in their lives, and they leave with tools to actually say, I know now what I need to do, and I'm not afraid of doing new things, because I provide people with some tools that they can use for the rest of their lives, handling really anything that comes at them.
Yeah, that does sound exciting, and I mean, the impact that you get to have on other people is incredible. And I'm wondering, I was thinking about this a little bit earlier. You'd mentioned, and I don't remember the words you used, so I'm going to butcher this, but you had mentioned some work that you do or have done specifically with women, and I'm wondering if you can talk to the aspiring future leaders a little bit that are women, and just speak to some of the challenges that you've faced as a woman in leadership, and maybe just give some encouragement to some people that, hey, I mean, this is just a really big topic, and you talked about diversity as well, and having your career with a family and the different pressures that you face compared to my perspective as a man. So can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yes. I think some of the most important work that we can do as women is actually build our own confidence, because that is the only thing we lack. I mean, I think when we are grounded as women and are not afraid of standing up for what we believe, what we have worked on, we're often more qualified, or we're at least as qualified, but it is that voice inside us that say, I don't deserve to be at this table. I don't, I have too much to do. We talk ourselves down. And I think that is probably the toughest thing for women. So I really think that if we could build ourselves the strength, and I often say start with really finding out what are the core values. What is it that you as a person stand for? What are things that are non-negotiable? And keep those with you all the time, because then you can make easier decisions. If you're going to take a job, if it takes you out of what is your core values, and it's not in alignment, why would you do that? And often we end up in jobs where we're not at all aligned with the people that we're working with, and we don't understand we're so uncomfortable or can't make it work. Having a personal mission statement is hugely important. And I know it probably sounds like it's out there, but it really is important. You would never run a company that is successful without having a mission statement and know what the company's core values are. And I learned that clearly from IKEA. And the more clear I am on my core values, what I bring to the table, what I want with my life, the easier it is to stand my ground and just have that confidence. I feel I am grounded. And that work, I think, if you don't do that, and that is the same for men and women, if you don't do that work, we are often just taken on to this, I call it the pressure cooker, where, in your late 30s and early 40s, when you have small children and you're sort of really moving your career forward, you just get twirled around. And if not careful, you end up in the hospital like I did. So that's why I'm saying when you lose connection with yourself, that's where you're in a danger zone. So to all women and I think certainly men out there, really do some work around your core values and your mission in life, because I think that really is unbelievable important work.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, and I think you're right. I think that's applicable to everyone that's growing their leadership. Actually, leadership aside, just everyone in general. And I interviewed Howard Behar, former president of Starbucks, and he keeps in his pocket with him his own list of core values and his mission statement on a card. And it's just kind of a cool reminder that it's not just, it doesn't just work to just, hey, write these things down and stick them in a drawer and forget about it, but to actually review and remind yourself of what's important so that you can make clear decisions based on your values. So thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that.
No, absolutely. I think it's just so important. So,
yeah. Well, I do want to ask one more question. We are running out of time. I've really enjoyed chatting with you, but I do have one last question for you. We talk a lot about self-development, and part of self-development, one small component is reading books. And I'm wondering if you have a book recommendation that first-time managers could pick up as they're beginning their journey in leadership. And this can be Design Your Life, but if you have another recommendation as well, that would be awesome.
Yeah, you know what? It's I actually have I think two recommendations, and I actually think the 1 Minute Manager is a very helpful book, because I think we often want to be leaders, but you also have a real responsibility to people that work for you, that you actually are giving them direction, goals, follow up with them. So there is discipline to being a good manager. So I think that is an easy, and I think really provides a lot of very good basic things. The other one is really the 4 agreements. And the book is, I just think is really helping as a manager to just understand that the way you are as how authentic you are with yourself has reflection on your people. And so I think those two kind of, it's almost like two opposite, but at the same time, I think they're very, very good inspiration to both being a good manager and also if you're good and clear on who you are, then people are much more comfortable with you as well. And I think it's important to know that you might be so consumed about being a manager, but I just want all of us to remember all the time, people don't leave companies, they leave bad managers. So to be a good manager and really do the right thing with your team, I just can't think of anything more important. So maybe be less focused on your own career before you have really created a strong, happy, engaged, motivated team.
Love it. And I lied. I do have one last question, and this one's going to be difficult. So I'll preface it by saying this: about 90% of the furniture in my house is from IKEA. So I'm curious, how much IKEA furniture is in your home and office?
Well, my office, I would say 100%. And that is my little home office. And in my house, I would say probably about at least 30%.
Nice. It was something that I was like, I know my wife's going to ask me this, because literally if you walked around her house, it's like IKEA everywhere. And
that's great.
It's just, I love IKEA myself too. I love walking around the store. So anyway, that was the last question I have. If someone listening today wants to connect with you or find your book, where's the best place for them to go?
Well, absolutely. They can find me on LinkedIn, but also go to www.goodlifedesigned.com. And they can find the book there. There's also email that they can contact us. And we do have a brand new online course that is about designing your life and really giving those skills that I was talking about. So all kinds of ways that they can, and I would love to hear from some of the listeners, as this is a passion for me, a great topic, and I'm delighted to have been part of it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I'll put that link to your website as well as your book recommendations in the show notes, which are available at yourbestmanager.com. And it's really easy because you can just search Pernille or IKEA from the homepage and find everything from today's episode. And managers, I'm not sure if you're traveling to or from work, getting a workout in, or simply taking some time to relax and listen today, but I hope that you've been encouraged and inspired from our conversation with Pernille Spiers-Lopez. Pernille, thanks again for sharing some of your story with the next generation of leaders. I truly appreciate it, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you very much.
All right, everyone, that does it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Now hop over to yourbestmanager.com and take advantage of the free tools, resources, and training which I've created exclusively for you, the next generation of leaders. Oh, and have fun.